Want to learn how to study smarter and better for your A-levels and O-levels? Watch this video for some tips and tricks. Hello everyone, welcome to the NASTI Dynasti, where we all learn about life-changing habits, skill sets, and mindsets to help us all become more nasty. If you're watching this video, that means that you're probably passing away from the Singapore education system, but trust me bro, I've been there. So a little background introduction for those that are new to this channel. I actually finished my O-levels in Anderson Secondary School. Then afterwards, I moved on to Anderson JC to finish my A-levels. Then recently, I just ORD'd. If you want to learn about some army tips, you can check out the video here. But this video, I'll be talking about study tips instead. I don't really care about people knowing my results because honestly, they're not that impressive. So I'll put the results like probably here for my O-levels and A-levels. But what I'm trying to tell you is that I'm just a normal guy, and I think that the advice that I give will probably be more relatable for all of you because I understand your struggles of trying to be normal versus all the people out there that are like scoring 90 rank points and scoring like 6 for their raw L1R5. So for today's video, I'll actually be covering 5 tips and tricks on how to study more efficiently for your A-levels as well as your O-levels. So the first tip is to always understand first. If you want to click off the video, please click it off after this segment because this segment is the most important part of the video. If you guys notice my O-level as well as my A-level results, right, I'm a freaking science person, okay? Like I freaking got D for econs. So along the way, I actually found some friends that actually did really well, as well as some friends that did not do as well. And I actually tried to find out like, actually, why is there this difference even though we maybe spend the same amount of time studying? But is it really about the efficiency or is it the way that we are studying? And I actually found out that the main difference is that those that actually do well, right, they understand the concepts a lot better, even if they don't memorize or practice as much. I completely understand, right, that there are some things that you actually need to memorize. Like for example, for physics, you might need to memorize your definitions, and for bio as well as chem, you need to memorize some terms. I don't know, polypeptides for bio or some shit. But regards to concept, right, you actually need to understand first before you even try to memorize or practice. So a very good way to understand something, right, is to actually read it first, then you break down into different parts and you try to explain it in your own words. This actually applies to almost every subject. Like, I think even for literature, you need to actually understand the book before you even go and memorize the different phrases and stuff. Let me give an example that a lot of us can relate to. So let's say if you find yourself doing your homework as well as your tutorials, okay, you are actually flipping through your notes and you're copying word for word into the tutorial or homework, right? That means something is actually wrong because when you're copying like that, right, you're basically just referring to an answer sheet, just that you have to flip the pages. A good way to do this, right, is to actually pay attention to the teacher in class and try to understand from there. But let's say sometimes the teacher teaches very fast, so you might not be able to understand very quickly. So as stupid as it sounds, right, you read your notes again. Okay, you understand the concept, you can just answer in your own phrase. The teacher won't fault you for it. As long as you say that, like, actually I try to understand then the teacher can't really say anything because you're actually putting effort rather than those that actually just copy the textbook answers. It's pretty obvious who is putting the effort. So you can actually take it as your homework and tutorial, right? They're actually like practice and you have to understand before you practice. And let's say when the teacher goes through all the answers, right, you actually know where your understanding lies and whether there are any flaws in your understanding. Then you can actually learn from your mistakes rather than you give all the textbook answers. Then when the teacher explains everything, you're just correct. Then you just don't listen, So by actually making mistakes, right, we actually reinforce our learning and then we actually have a very stable foundation in the different chapters and the different subjects. So another thing I want to talk about is that people actually try to go and create their own notes. So basically what they do, they have their own piece of A4 size paper, then they copy word for word over in point form, then they go and decorate these notes to make it very nice and stuff. But something that I have against it, right, is that when you're copying, right, are you actually learning anything? Or are you just copying to make it look nicer so that when you revise it's easier? And when you revise, right, are you actually referring to this only? Or are you still referring to your textbook? So the fact that you spend so much time trying to create these notes, right, and you still end up referring to the textbook, like,
what's the point?
So creating notes, right, is actually something that you can use to help you understand the concepts as well. Your brain shouldn't be shut down when you're creating your notes. And then afterwards, you go and refer to your notes and then you realize that like,
oh wait, it's actually like word for word.
So technically, you're like wasting your time to create a nicer version of your notes. No offense to those that actually have very pretty notes and stuff, but what I'm trying to say, right, is that when you actually create these notes, you have to understand the concept first before you create the notes so that you can reinforce your understanding and your notes actually have value for you. So a very good way to judge whether you understand something very well is if you are able to phrase it into your own words and teach someone that completely has no knowledge about this entire thing. So I noticed for all my smarter friends, right, they actually have this habit of explaining things in a very stupid way. Like they can go and use like all the stupid examples, everything to explain to you like a math concept. But somehow, right, after they explain to you, you will be like, oh shit, I understand now. The fact that they are able to go and change something that is so difficult and break it down into something so simple, right, shows that they understand the topic a lot. I guess this is something that you want to see in yourself before you try to practice and memorize anything or even do your own notes. The next tip is to highlight your textbook and write down notes. Actually, there are two reasons for highlighting your notes. The first, right, is that it actually keeps you awake when you're highlighting stuff, right, and then when you're writing down notes, you're actually, like, in a sense, being active lah, rather than just sitting there and just listening to your lecturer, and it makes things less boring lah, I guess. So the second reason is that it actually helps with your revision. Each color represents something. So for example, yellow is something that helps me identify something that I must know. And then let's say pink is something for examples, like examples that help me to understand the concept better, or some phrases that help me understand the concept better. And let's say green. Green can be used to show that I need to memorize this part. Like it can be used to highlight definitions or some keywords that I need to memorize. So actually whenever I revise, right, I only look at the highlighted points, because all the non-highlighted points are basically useless in a sense, because it doesn't help me with my understanding and I don't need it for the exam. I'm not sure whether you'll notice, but when your lecturer or your teacher, whenever they go through this certain chapter, right, they'll actually go and draw some things, and then they will go and use some weird words and connect different topics to each other that actually help you to understand the concept a lot easier, a lot better. So whenever they say this kind of stuff, right, you need to write it down. I tell you, you need to write it down. Sometimes, right, whenever a teacher say things, right, you won't remember one. So during class, right, just keep yourself awake, highlight your notes, write down your notes. Then during revision, right, it will help you a lot. So the third tip will actually be getting rid of distractions. So for this component, I'm not really talking about distractions that cause you to procrastinate when you're doing your homework or studying for your exam. If you want to find out more about procrastination, you can actually check out my procrastination video over here. I want to talk about distractions that you experience in class. And actually when I think about it, right, the number one distraction for me is actually my friends. I remember me and my friend in secondary 1 and 2, wow, I tell you, we were so damn noisy and it really was damn distracting for not just us, but everybody around us. During JC, I will actually go and sit in front of the class whenever there are any important subjects or something that I really want to learn, because I'm just getting distracted if I were to be with my friends. But actually for secondary school, right, it's actually not that easy for you to get distracted, because when you are distracted, right, and you cause a lot of ruckus in the class, right, your teachers will all know one, and they'll go and swap your seats. So you're forced to be sitting with, I don't know, the quiet girl next to you or something like that to keep you in check. Bro, but for JC, right, whoop, your lecturer and tutorial don't give a damn about you, bro. If you don't ask questions and if you're not interested, right, don't care, bro. As long as you don't cause like a lot of ruckus in the class, you don't anyhow go and make noise and stuff like that. So moral of the story is actually work hard and play hard. So let's say if you are supposed to go for lessons and stuff like that, then don't cause a ruckus, you know. Y'all can focus together, y'all can actually motivate each other to focus in class. But let's say if y'all go out, go have fun, yeah, go have a good time lah. When you get rid of all these distractions, right, during class, you will actually find that your learning is much more conducive and it's so much easier to absorb knowledge. The fourth step is actually practice. I'm not sure if y'all know, right, but our Singaporean education system actually has this loophole where you are able to memorize answering the questions. I don't know if that makes sense lah. Okay, but basically every question has a format, okay? And if you know that format, then technically you can answer every question that focuses on that format. So a very good way to do this is actually doing your past year papers, do other school papers, do your 10-year series. They actually give you a lot of exposure to those kinds of questions. And then sooner or later, right, you'll eventually find out the pattern. And then when you see the question, like for example math, if I see this algebra question, they ask me to go and solve it, and then they give me this certain equation, I will immediately know which method I will use. So your brain will just click, and then you don't even need to think. You can just like, then you just continue writing, and somehow you'll get the answer. But of course, like I said previously, right, you have to make sure that you understand first before you practice. If not, there's really no point in just copying for an answer sheet. For secondary school, it's a lot easier for you to get practice because everything is basically homework, and your teacher actually checks your homework. But let's say if you go to JC, right, bro, no tutor want to check your work, bro. It's actually damn rare for a tutor to want to mark your work. So every time when you do your assignments, right, you actually go through everything in class and you mark your own work. Then after that, they take back, okay. Yeah, so technically you can just go and do it in class. You go and copy the answer from the teacher and stuff like that. So if you do that, okay lah, you finish your homework lah, but you're not getting any proper practice if you don't understand first before you do it. So remember that if you want to do well, right, remember to practice. The last tip will be rest. If you get 4 to 5 hours of sleep every day during JC or secondary school, don't worry, that's completely normal. Every night I either play Dota or watch anime, so because of that I actually get very little sleep. But right, this whole thing is just an endless cycle, because you sleep, that's at home, then because of that you go and sleep during your tutorial, and then you sleep during your lecture, then because of that you don't learn anything. And let's say if you're awake and then you just over there. What's the point? What you want to do, right, is that you want to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, okay? As difficult as it sounds, right, okay? Because secondary school and JC, they start so early. Got what? I wake up at 6 o'clock. That means that if I want 7 hours of sleep, I need to sleep at like 9? What? What the fuck? And also, try not to study for like 10 hours straight without any breaks. I mean, of course, you need dinner and stuff, but
No shit, Sherlock.
try to take like maybe 5 minutes breaks, 15 minutes breaks in between like maybe 1 hour sessions to ensure that your brain is still working and that you don't actually burn out. I actually had some friends that burn out during O levels, and because of that, they didn't do very well. It just got to a point where they just couldn't absorb information, and because of that, they just flunked their O levels. So just remember that rest is a very crucial part of productivity, and you're good to go. So with that, I've actually finished covering the 5 tips that I have for you on how to study smarter as well as more efficiently for your O levels as well as your A levels. As long as you try to follow these 5 tips and you actually put in the hard work, you will definitely survive the Singaporean education system. With that, I'll see you all in the next video. Always remember, stay nasty.